So the question really is why? 1,500 soldiers, they're not going to defeat anyone. They're not going to start or win a war with Iran. So why send any at all? And while we're deploying troops overseas to contain threats, why not contain a real threat like China? To help us figure out what exactly is happening, we are joined by retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor. He's the author of the terrific book, Margin of Victory, and he joins us now. Colonel, thanks very much for coming on. So
Sure.
what do you suppose the thinking here is?
Well, I think the president told you straight up the truth. This is a theater missile defense formation. The troops and the equipment they have are designed to shoot down incoming ballistic missiles. So this is a purely defensive formation, has no offensive fighting capability at all. And normally in crises or in any period of tension, we routinely deploy these kinds of formations to the Middle East to reassure our friends and partners that we will help shoot down ballistic missiles if Iran shoots at them.
Oh, so we're not, I mean, these are not missiles aimed at our country, they're aimed at other countries.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, sounds fine. I guess the concern would be, though, that their presence might be potentially a trigger that would get us involved in some sort of wider conflict. And the broader concern is that the small group of people around the president are pushing for that conflict. Do you think that's something to be worried about?
I think you've already got that in the form of the carrier battle group. The team of one that I call the president, the team of one, because he's the only person who is obviously opposed to conflict in the region with Iran. He is trying very desperately, I think, in his own way to de-escalate. But he really has to pull the carrier battle group out of the Persian Gulf. He needs to get it out of there, put it out in the Arabian Sea, even put it in the Eastern Mediterranean, but get it out of the Gulf. That's the real trigger right now. That's the potential catalyst for trouble.
Looking at the world, in the full expanse of the world, do you believe that Iran is the preeminent physical threat to the United States right now?
Oh, no, of course not. Iran doesn't threaten us at all. Look, this is an intra-Muslim conflict that we're watching unfold right now. You have on the one side Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and the Gulf, who are trying to escalate the tension and the conflict by dragging us in. We are there ostensibly to protect them. But in reality, they would like to drag us into conflict with Iran. Obviously, the Israelis would appreciate that as well, but it's primarily right now Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arabs. They're unhappy with what's happened in Yemen, with the fact that the Houthis haven't all committed suicide yet. They would like to see Iran driven out of Iraq and Syria. The only hope they have of any of that happening is by dragging us in to do it for them.
I mean, that doesn't seem remotely in our interest, our national interest at all. Why wouldn't we fight that idea? Why wouldn't we fight that with every ounce of strength we have?
Well, the problem is that the team of one, once again, is surrounded by these globalists, interventionists, with ties in many cases to the Gulf Arabs, to Saudi Arabia and Israel. So they're going to do whatever they can to advocate for conflict. That's the problem. The team of one sits there and says, wait a minute, why? I mean, we've been through this process in the past. There is no evidence that Iran had anything to do with the attacks on the tankers. Far from it. In fact, anybody who knows the Iranians knows that if they were actually trying to sink those ships, they'd have done it. So that looks like another false flag designed once again to create tension and drag us into the fight.
It's just funny. I mean, it seems like only yesterday that the left was berating the Trump administration for doing the bidding of Saudi Arabia, and now they're sitting by happily as we come closer to war on behalf of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, this is what Yogi Berra called a deja vu all over again. You know, these kinds of things keep happening over and over and over again. I think President Trump knows better, but he really needs to get involved personally, de-escalate this thing. Yeah. The Iranians are trying very hard to communicate with us through intermediaries. I think we should talk to them privately, quietly, in a third country, and sort out some of these differences. But we should not be in the intra-Muslim war. It's not our war.
No, of course not. Colonel, thank you very much. Great to see you tonight.
Yes.